People are still joining. Okay, so we'll start now. Is everyone able to see the screen? Okay, okay, good. We'll start now. So, uh, the most basic question of, you can say, animal biology, cell biology, whatever is this, what is the basic unit of life? Cell, tissue, organ, or organ system? And your time starts now. I'll give you 30 seconds. It's a very easy question. I know everyone can answer it. If you have not attended the lectures, attended the lectures. If you are from biology background, obviously you can answer it. Just go back, and this is going to be a disturbance. Okay. Cell, 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 cell. Okay. So the correct answer is cell. So what is a cell actually? Cells are the basic building blocks of living organisms, and as the question says, cell is the basic unit of life. Who was the first person to observe cells under a microscope? Does anyone know the answer? Uh, I request everyone to please switch off their audios and videos as well. Yes, Robert Hooke is the answer. So basically, we can say that cells are of two types, or as the animal cells as well as the plant cells. So the blue structure is the animal cell, and the green structure is the plant cell. And other than this, also there are many specialized cells in our body, like neurons, skin cells, blood cells, etc. So this was a very easy question. We'll move on to the next question. Blood pressure in human body is maintained by option A, positive feedback loop, negative feedback loop, both A and B, none of the above. And your time starts now. I'll give you 1 minute to answer this question. Blood pressure in human body is maintained by positive feedback loop or negative feedback loop, both A and B, or none of the above. Everyone is saying both A and B. Most of them are saying both. Okay. Some are saying negative feedback loop. Both. Okay. Am I getting answers from 100? The population is now 101. Is everyone answering? I hope you all are active in answering the questions. Negative feedback loop. Both. Okay. Please mute your audios. Both. Okay. Both A and B. That both. Done? So the correct answer is negative feedback loop, not positive feedback loop. So those who all have answered both A and B, it is not correct. Blood pressure in human body is maintained by the negative feedback loop. We'll know how. So first of all, what is homeostasis? What is homeostasis? Homeostasis is the state of steady internal and physical chemical conditions maintained in our system, living system. Whenever our body is in a stable state, we call it as homeostasis. And homeostasis is maintained by a variety of factors like the hypothalamus regulates the temperature and the osmotic pressure. Kidneys maintain water balance. Blood distributes heat throughout the body. Skeletal muscle contracts and releases heat. Pancreas regulate the blood sugar levels in our body, and evaporation of water helps regulate our body temperature. So mainly three variables, that is the body temperature, fluid balance, as well as the blood sugar levels. These are the key factors which maintain steady physical and chemical conditions in our body, and it is known as homeostasis. So, the question was about blood pressure. So, it is regulated by a negative feedback loop, as you all can see here. So, there are two conditions. One, the blood pressure rises above the normal range, or the blood pressure falls below the normal range. So, in either of the situation, homeostasis is disturbed. So, first of all, if blood pressure rises above normal range, reflex response baroreceptors get stimulated, which leads to a reflex response, and as a result of this reflex response, many centers like the cardio acceleratory centers get inhibited, cardio inhibitory centers get stimulated, and vasomotor centers get inhibited. So, due to the cardio acceleratory center inhibition and cardio inhibitory center stimulation, there is a decreased cardiac output, as well as the vasodilation occurs, like the arteries and veins in our body dilates, that is expands, due to which the blood pressure reduces if it is risen below the norm above the normal range, and then our homeostasis is restored. So why this is called negative feedback loop? Can anyone answer? Can anyone answer the question, what is the difference between a positive feedback loop and a negative feedback loop? No one knows the answer. What is the difference between a positive feedback loop and a negative feedback loop? Because it serves to reduce an excessive positive that the quality influences its action to its. Okay. Shalini M. She has given a correct answer. In positive feedback, the quantity increases wherever there is a less concentration, whereas in negative feedback, it reduces the production. Good. Similarly, when blood pressure falls below the normal range, that is again homeostasis is disturbed. What happens now? Whatever has happened during during this cycle, the opposite of it happens. That is, the baroreceptors are inhibited, which leads to a stimulation of the vasomotor centers, cardio inhibitory centers get inhibited, cardio acceleratory centers get stimulated. All of these lead to an increased cardiac output as well as vasoconstriction. That is, our arteries and veins get constricted, which leads to blood pressure elevation of the blood pressure level, that is the increase in blood pressure level, and as a result of which homeostasis is restored. So the main difference we can say is whenever the blood pressure rises above the normal range, there is a decrease in cardiac output and vasodilation occurs. Decrease in cardiac output leads to decrease in blood pressure. You can remember like that. And whenever the blood pressure falls below the normal range, there is an increase in cardiac output and the blood pressure level increases. As you can see, this opposite connection, fall of blood pressure below normal range leads to increase in cardiac output, which leads to increase in blood pressure. And whenever there is a rise in blood pressure above the normal range, there is a decreased cardiac output as well as the blood pressure, as a result of which the blood pressure reduces. So this is a negative feedback loop. Okay. So we'll be discussing what is a positive feedback loop as well in our in the following questions. So the next question is, dash divides body into left and right parts. First option is transverse plane, coronal plane, horizontal plane, sagittal plane. Okay, so your time starts now. Dash divides body into left and right parts. Transverse plane, coronal plane, horizontal plane, or sagittal plane. People are still joining. Sagittal plane, transverse plane. Okay, listen. Okay, okay. So most of you have given the correct answer. The correct answer is sagittal plane. We'll know how. So this diagram depicts the anatomical body planes and the directional terms. That is, our body plane can be divided into three distinct divisions, as we can see here. Either our body can be divided into a transverse plane or a frontal or coronal plane. Frontal and coronal plane are the same, or sagittal or lateral plane. So what is transverse plane? Division by the transverse plane leads to a superior and an inferior body part, that is upper and down body parts. And wherever there is a division, if our body is divided by a frontal and coronal plane, that is from the middle, horizontal middle we can say, then it gets divided into a medial and lateral part. And whenever our body is divided into a sagittal or lateral plane, that is again from the middle but vertically, then it leads to an anterior or posterior part, that is right and left parts. So as the question was, dash divides body into left and right parts, so the correct answer is sagittal plane, not transverse plane. Transverse plane divides the body into up and down parts. Coronal is the same as frontal plane, as well as horizontal plane is also the same, that is it divides the body into medial and lateral parts, whereas the sagittal or the lateral plane divides the body into right and left parts, as you all can see here. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question now. Formation of blood clot inside the blood vessel is called. Option, yes. Is anyone having any problem? You can write in the chat box. Okay, people have already started to answer. Good. Formation of blood clot inside the blood vessel is called option A thrombosin, option B thrombosis, option B tuberculosis, option D tuberculation. Okay. Thrombosis. Okay. So, yes, those who of all are raising hands, can I know what is the issue? Please write down in the chat box. Okay, so the correct answer is thrombosis. Most of you have given the correct answer. Good. So we'll know. So as the question says, formation of blood clot inside a blood vessel is known as thrombosis. So there are basically two main types of thrombosis. Venous thrombosis is when the blood clot blocks a vein. As you all know, the blood vessels can be divided into veins, arteries, and capillaries. So whenever there is a blood clot that blocks a vein, it is known as venous thrombosis. And whenever there is a blood clot that blocks an artery, it is known as arterial thrombosis. Okay, so you can see the picture of thrombosis here. This is a blood clot known as thrombus, and this is the blood vessel. It can be a artery or a vein, and due to this blood clot, the blood circulation is becoming difficult, as a result of which there is a decreased blood flow in our body. And another condition known as embolism, it is related to thrombosis. That's why I wanted to tell you all. The formation of blood clot in a blood vessel is called as thrombosis, but whenever and it blocks the blood flow in a blood vessel. But when this blood clot, which is known as thrombus, starts to circulate in the blood vessel as well, breaking into pieces. ठीक है? Embolus travels down the blood vessel, leads to blockage of the blood flow. Like in case of thrombosis, there is a decreased blood flow, but in case of embolism, this thrombus breaks into embolus, and due to which it blocks the whole blood vessel, leading to blockage of blood flow. Okay, so embolism is a more severe condition than thrombosis. So what are the causes of thrombosis? It can be due to a injury or immobility, like movement, no movement, fracture, obesity, increase in weight as well. So if you all want to see how a thrombosis looks, whenever there is a blood clot in our body, blue color forms, right? I think most of you must have observed it. Whenever you get injured uh, due to blood clot, the skin gets blue, right? So here, this is, I think, the example of a venous thrombus. The blood clot is happening in the veins, due to which it is showing blue color in the veins. Okay. So moving on to the next question. Blood consists of red blood vessels, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, or all of the above. So time starts now. Blood consists of red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, all of the above. Yes. What? Please write down in the chat box. If anyone is having issue with the video or audio, please write down in the chat box. Do not unmute your call and talk. I'm seeing the chat box continuously. If anyone has any issue, you can write down in the chat box. Okay, most of you are giving the answers. Blood consists of. Okay, okay, so the correct answer is all of the above. Most of you have given the correct answers. I think all of you have given the correct answer. So, composition of blood. So, as the question said, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, everything, all of these components are of the blood. As you can see from the picture here, these are the red blood cells, lymphocytes, also known as the white blood cells, and platelets. So, if we go in detail, blood, the amount of blood in our body is 8% and other fluids and tissues are 92%, making it up to 100%, which leads to our total body weight. Blood can be broadly divided into two components, that is plasma and formed elements. So percentage of plasma in our body is 55%, whereas the formed elements, the percentage is 45%. So now further, if we divide plasma, it can be divided into proteins, water and other solutes. And the formed elements constitute the platelets, leukocytes, or you can say the uh, white blood cells, and erythrocytes. Erythrocytes are also known as red blood cells. So the options, whichever in the question, they come in the part of formed elements. So, in plasma, proteins can be further divided into albumins, globulins, fibrinogen, prothrombin, and water 91%. And other solutes are like ions, nutrients, waste products, gases, regulatory substances. All of these are found in our blood. And the formed elements, which is the 45%, can be divided into platelets, which is less than 1%, white blood cells, which that is also less than 1%, and majority of the portion in our formed elements is the RBCs, that is the erythrocytes. And here white blood cells or leukocytes can be further divided into neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. Okay. So, moving on to the next question. Which of the following parts of brain is majorly involved in temperature regulation? Which of the following parts of brain is majorly involved in temperature regulation? And your options are visual cortex, hypothalamus, nephron, or olfactory bulb? The time starts now. Please mute your audio, Ranjani. Please mute your audio. Hypothalamus. Majority of the people are saying hypothalamus. Okay. Okay, so the correct answer is hypothalamus. So how does hypothalamus regulate our body temperature? As we discussed previously about homeostasis, homeostasis is basically majorly dependent on our body temperature. So what happens whenever there is an increase in body temperature? It can be due to anything like exercise or hot surroundings. In hypothalamus, the control center detects change and activates the cooling temperature as our body is heated now. So, in response to the control center of the hypothalamus, our skin blood vessels dilate and the blood carries heat to the skin surface and the body temperature decreases and hypothalamus shuts off the cooling mechanism. So what is the cooling mechanism of the hypothalamus? It activates the sweat glands, which leads to increase in evaporation, leading to cooling, which leads to decrease in our body temperature. Similarly, if there is a decrease in body temperature due to cold surroundings, if we go to a cold condition, then what happens? The hypothalamus control center detects the changes in our body temperature again and gives warming mechanism, activates the warming mechanism. So what is the warming mechanism? The skin blood vessels constrict, right? Constricts and keeps the control center warm and reduces heat loss from the skin surface. As the blood vessels constrict, they trap the heat in our body and reduce the heat loss, as well as it activates the skeletal muscles, which leads to shivering. Obviously, right? Whenever we get exposed to extreme cold conditions, we start shivering automatically. Our body starts shivering. It is due to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus activates the skeletal muscles, which uh, due to their activation, we shiver and it generates heat in our body, thereby maintaining the body temperature again. The body temperature increases, and when the body temperature increases, the hypothalamus again shuts off the warming mechanism. We stop shivering, right? So, what is the difference between the both the conditions? That whenever our body temperature increases due to hot surroundings, the skin blood vessels dilate, that is, they expand, which leads to blood flow from heat to skin surface. As they expand, the blood vessels expand, the blood is carried from heat to the skin surface, which leads to decrease in blood pressure and the high, as well as the sweat glands blood temperature, sorry, as well as the sweat glands get activated, right? And there is a increase in evaporation. Okay, we sweat a lot, right? Whenever we are exposed to extreme heat conditions, we sweat a lot. This is because of the hypothalamus. And whenever we go to a cold region, we get exposed to cold conditions, we shiver. That is also because of the hypothalamus. So, the hypothalamus is the main control center for regulating our body temperature, right? So, moving on to the next question. Glucose is a very simple question. Glucose is a protein, lipid, carbohydrate, or nucleic acid. Okay, give the answers quickly. I'm unable to understand how people are joining till now. I want to make it clear the timing is from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Right? So I wish you all to please join by 6:10 p.m. From the next session, I won't be waiting till 6:20 p.m. as I did now. So please be on time. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates. Yes, carbohydrates is the right answer. Glucose is a carbohydrate. So what is the explanation? So organic compounds can be broadly divided into carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, and high energy compounds. Right? All of these are found in our body. So, carbohydrates are the energy giving compounds of our body, which can be further divided into polysaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides. Monosaccharide is one glucose unit, and disaccharides are two glucose units, and polysaccharides are more than two glucose units. Next, lipids. Lipids include triglycerides, fatty acids, triglycerides, which are constituted of fatty acids and glycerol. Proteins are composed of peptides. Peptides are composed of amino acids, right? Two amino acids are bound by a peptide bond. Then nucleic acids, that is the genetic material in our body, which is the DNA or RNA, and both DNA and RNA compose the nucleotides. And the last one is the high energy compounds, that is ATP. Okay, the energy compound in our body is composed of a nucleotide plus the phosphate groups, right? So our question was glucose is a carbohydrate. So what is glucose? Is it a monosaccharide, a disaccharide, or a polysaccharide? Can you tell me? Okay, okay, I can't. Okay. So glucose is a monosaccharide. Along with glucose, fructose and galactose are also examples of monosaccharides. Next, ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, adenosine triphosphate, adenosine triplicate, adenosine triplicate. It's a very easy question. Okay, all of you know the answer, right? ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. So how ATP is formed? First, adenosine get bounds to a phosphate molecule, and with the help of energy released from the glucose during our biological mechanisms, right, leads to formation of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, that is three phosphate molecules, right? And ATP stores a lot of glucose, which is used as the energy packet for our cellular processes. Moving on to the next question, how many carbon atoms are present in one molecule of ATP? We discussed about ATP. So how many carbon atoms are present in one molecule of ATP? 1, 5, 10 or 15? How many carbon atoms are present in one molecule of ATP? People who are saying 1, no. Understand the question properly. The question is saying how many carbon atoms are present in one molecule of ATP. Glucose is a monosaccharide, but is it containing only one carbon atom? I don't think so. Okay, many of them are saying 5. Okay, so the correct answer is 10. None of you have given the correct answer. You all need to read properly. So this is the structure of ATP, right? So adenosine triphosphate, we can see the three phosphate molecules here, and then the structure with carbon starts. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we have 10 carbon atoms in one molecule of ATP, right? So the next question is, plasma membrane is a protein layer, carbohydrate bilayer, lipid bilayer, protein bilayer. Plasma membrane is a protein layer, carbohydrate bilayer, lipid bilayer, or protein bilayer. Okay, most of you are giving the correct answer. Plasma membrane is a lipid bilayer. How? So this is the structure of the plasma membrane, and as you can see here, this is the lipid bilayer, right? This is the structure of the lipid bilayer. The head is hydrophilic in nature and the tail is hydrophobic in nature. The tail is hydrophobic, that's why it is towards the inside. Hydrophobic, it is water leaving in nature, whereas the head is hydrophilic, that is water loving in nature, that's why they are outside to the external environment, right? And in this lipid bilayer, proteins are embedded in this lipid bilayer. That's why plasma membrane is a lipid bilayer. Okay. So these were the questions from the previous assignments. Extremely happy that most of you were able to answer all of the questions correctly. And whoever were unable to answer all the questions correctly, have done mistakes in some of the questions, no worries. I request you all again to please attend the lectures. Those will be very helpful to you. In solving the present assignment, we are not discussing here the present assignment. The present assignment questions are similar to these questions. That's why we have discussed the previous assignment questions. It will help you in solving the present assignments, right? And whoever have doubts in this session, if any of the time is already up, it's already becoming 7 p.m. So if any of you have doubts regarding this live interactive session, I welcome you all for your questions. There is a discussion forum by NPTEL. You can post your questions there. If you have any of the doubts in these questions or the concepts explained with this question. Yeah, right. So we'll meet again next Tuesday at 6 p.m. I request you all to please attend the lectures before Tuesday and come on time. Okay? We leave. I know you can go and join the rest classes. Okay? It was nice having an interactive session, you all. We'll have some good interactive sessions on the following Tuesdays. Okay? Thank you all. Thank you.